Thokozani, I am wabadimo and I welcome you to my channel. Thank you so much for choosing to view my video. Today I'll be talking about death, how it relates to us spiritually. You know, we often look at death as a painful thing, and the whole, notion or rather mindset around death is always the funeral and the graveside, but we do not necessarily evaluate the cycle of life and how everything affects us spiritually. And we are all spiritual people, whether we like it or not, and death is going to come to us at some point. And death, we should not only look at it as a bad thing, but it's a spiritual thing, that you have fulfilled your time has come, and now you need to move on to the spiritual life where you come from. We return to where we come from. So when a human is being formed, it's not an easy process. Even the birthing process is not easy. The mom goes into terrible labor pains and everything else, and the child then has to develop speech and all these other things, and then you live your whole life, and then to only at the end start losing everything that you have gained. Meaning you're gonna lose your teeth, you're gonna lose your eyesight, you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna lose all these things that you have gathered from this physical life, And what happens is that when you're a baby, you come to this world with your third eye open, being such a spiritually inclined person. But now what happens is that you develop and start growing, and all these things become different, become foreign to you, and now you have to adjust to being in the human life. So now when you're about to reach your I just call it your peak of living, because now you're about to die or rather depart from this world. Your third eye opens, and now you start to see on the other side. You lose your speech, and you're not even able to reiterate to us what you are seeing or what are your forebearers saying, and that is why you hear whenever, someone is about to cross over, they'll always tell you, I see this, or ngibona ugogo, or ngibona umamam, or whoever the case might be, because right now they are no longer part of this world. They are trapped in this physical world, whereas the spirit is ready to depart or rather leave the physical body. So now what happens is that we become so attached to this person, and whether they are family, whatever the case, we become attached to them. That is why umuntu makazohamba kunezinto ezenzakalayo eziningi. For example, kuzoba nengozi mhlambe ekhaya, or kube nezinto ezingabi right lelo viko lelo, or you will just feel tired or drained or exhausted the day of departure, or nigule lapha endlini, or anything of that case, because imizi nemizi ayifani and nemoya yabantu ayifani. Just like we all have different zodiac signs, that is the same thing spiritually. So there are different signs that are being translated into the physical world, that look, I'm about to depart, prepare, because umuntu will never tell you that I'm going tomorrow. Abanye, they'll be sick in the hospital, and then the next thing you hear that they're getting better, lasani relax corner, and then they depart. Because why? Ukuhamba kumuntu, rather the separation of the spirit and the body, imfihlo kamdali. We will never ever get to see that. We will never get to experience. That is also the divine, connection between a seed and the spirit is imfihlo kamdali, because you just think of a sperm being inside of a womb, but you cannot understand the spiritual aspect around that. So now, death plays an important part, because it is that person saying to you, I have come and lived this life. Now I need to go take my seat so that I can be able to help you better. Uzokwazi ukuthi ni-connect nami better and communicate to me better, because when I'm still la emhlabeni, I relate to you ngeyinkinga zala emhlabeni. I relate to you from your point of view. But once I'm an ancestor, I'm able, to see things differently and assist you better. Ngithi ngifika ne-file elishoyo ukuthi ngishiye abantwana in this state and in this state, or I'm not happy with 1, 2, 3. That is why, some people will be against of izinto zokuya ema-graveyard. I've been in a church, or rather a religious space, whereby we were being taught ukuthi ukuvakashela amathuna is something foreign and we shouldn't do that. And for a long time, I believed that. And I was like, I'm never, ever going to go a graveyard. But once you grow and you become spiritually mature, you see, good ezinye izinto, they are just a delaying tactic to our spirituality as a African people. Ethuna asisho abantu, they will think ukuthi uma emathuneni we're going to worship the dead. No, honey, it's not the dead. We are going to, this whole notion of in loving memory, that is the memory that we have ukuthi Umpo has lived in this earth, and our connection to her as Idlozi, we will know where to connect to her. Because yes, ungapahla summoning all your ancestors, but what if I just want to direct a message to you? What if, I want to, it's like we're keeping your memory alive. You're not a dog. You're not an ant. So why should we forget about you as though you never existed? And it is like, whenever you go uye graveyard uyocleana uyenzani usuke uvuselela that memory of that person, and it's not a bad thing, might I tell you. It's not a bad thing. It is like going to see your loved one. Uyobona ukuthi ithambo lakhe laphela. It's like going to see a house you once lived in. It's full of memories and all these other things. So why would you want to forget about where you started as a person or in life? So visiting the grave sites has a deeper meaning than people abavele bayithathe la phezulu. Tina esihlonipha where we come from, because once you understand ukuthi labantu abalele lapha egraveyard, if it were not for them accepting the mission at that particular time to come and kuza la emhlabeni, you would not be here. You would be in another form or somewhere else, or not even existing. But because of divine destiny, it had to happen that way, so that bazokwazi ukuthi bashare i-baton, or rather give way, so that wena uzokwazi ube khona. That is why uzothola in some cases when someone dies, there's always someone pregnant in the family, or someone is about to be born, or all of the cases. That is a sign to you that siyachiftelana, generations, give new generation space. When the old generation dies, a new generation is coming. Once your purpose is fulfilled, you now know that I need to ascend, So now then, after that, it can be up to a person that I need to reincarnate or do this. Like that is a different chapter on its own. So now when it comes to izinto zamadlozi and all these other things, and all of that, it is just a continuation. Sisuke sindlulisa ingcebo, or rather imfihlo yaleyo muzi loyo. So it's absolutely nothing bad. I do not necessarily, I know at this time we are going through so much as a people, but just moving away from that, death will always be a part of us. And however umuntu ashona, you need to know ukuthi all the time umuntu suka vumile, ukuthi makazohamba. It's always an agreement, and sometimes you might feel ukuthi the only different case is that when someone has committed suicide and all those cases, that becomes a different case, because you do not necessarily cross over to amadlozi akho, because they say to you, you're supposed to live until 80. Now you murdered yourself. You committed suicide when you were 20, so now you're still gonna wander around, you won't have contact, you won't have anything. So now the thing that always pushes us away from our ways is to think once a person has died, they rest in peace. They do not rest. The work continues. That is why sikwazi ukuphahla idlozi, because if honestly they were resting, none of us would be where we are today. So they do not rest. The work continues. Life is spiritual. A spirit does not die. A spirit is an forever. It's an energy. It's an forever thing. So that is what we need to understand and know as a people, that this is who we are. And for you to come to this world, there had needs that agreement between amadlozi athizeni ukuthi uzoba khona. And for you to depart, there is an agreement between your ancestors. So even sometimes, no matter how much you can pray or anything, but once someone has made that decision that I'm out, there's nothing you can do, because they can see that, you know what, I've done what I've come here to do, and I'm just sitting here buying time, watching people live life while I've got so much to do on the other side. So we will never understand until we become open-minded to spiritual life and spirituality as a whole. So ukuya graveyard, it's important. Going there, or your pasha, you know, or just for a visit, you know, it's just because what I always get is that, Coco, what do I do when I get to the graveyard? What do I say when I get to the graveyard? What do I take with me? Basic things, you know, because those are the basic, we know ukuthi uma ukhuluma nomuntu osengale or noma seyitonga, those are the things you take with you. And water, obviously, you know, scoop and whatever, you go there and clean, whatever the case might be. It's important. There's nothing as painful, you know, as you know, whenever you have to connect to someone's ancestors, and the first thing they tell you that they don't come to see us. You should see where we are sleeping. You should see our places. But bona, they want their lives to prosper. So I don't want us to be lost in everything and forget who we are and where we come from. It's important to understand, if it wasn't for you wouldn't be here. But you acknowledging them as amadlozi wakho, that is power right there. So we need to not necessarily embrace it, but accept it. And that is why the last time I went to a gravesite, and you could just feel the energies there. Because even ngoba umuntu azoshona, ngisho uyashona and then nimngcwabe, then kuba ne period la abakhona la emhlabeni angakacrossing over as yet. That period is the waiting period la inyongo ingakabhobobi khona. Once ikubhoboka inyongo, kwabanye abantu kuyaliwa emndenini, kwabanye abantu lelo langa lelo things just go sour. You know, if nabantu abesintu or abantu abaspiritual ukuthi inyongo seyibhobokile, it's now been 3 months or whatever the case might be. Because even when you go to the graveside, you can feel a grave yomuntu inyongo engakabhoboki, and nomuntu, there's just a different type of heaviness. You know, there's heaviness because it's still a fresh, you know, type of thing. So now, they now, you know, are on the other side. And that is why sometimes I say, my mom passed on, but I'm not dreaming of her. Has the waiting period crossed over? Or what? Because ufika na yahlale ku waiting room emadlozini and all these other things, you know, alinda bogogo bafike bamamkele and all these other things. And then masekabonile the ways around. From the spiritual realm, it's been 61 years. So once they know their way around things, they're able to buy the data, you know, buy the Losi data and communicate to you and send you dreams and speak to you, you know. And it's not every time that Oma Umundanga Veli not saying anything to you, there's something wrong. I would say check the waiting period, you know. Then that's important. Might say you acknowledging of that they crossing over. That is why in some families they cut off their hair. That is why in some families nyakeza. That is why in some families uyazilwa. That is an acknowledgement that there's been a spiritual separation of us and umpo. Now umpo's on the other side, sega yidlozi, and we cleanse of that DNA. You know, it's very deep. It's very deep. Spirituality is beautiful, I always say, but it's very deep. So as a people, it's important for us to see acknowledge amasiko, see acknowledge izinto zethu, not always want to demonize everything. You know, we do not worship amadlozi. We do not. But sipahla idlozi, you know, because as a black person, mini angel yam is not some white guy standing tall in the sky. My angel is my ancestors. Those are my angels. Those are the people protecting me. I don't know no angelo or smangma. Those are my angels. Those are the people that are looking out for me. You know, I need 1, 2, and 3. Those are the people that jump when I speak. So it's one of those things that we've always been taught that everything good and, you know, spiritual and holy needs to be, you know, in a different certain skin color. Ungathatha amadlozi akho uwenze a demon. That is why people will feel good. Now, where do I put, you know, amadlozi, God, there's ancestors. You know, where do I put this? Do not confuse yourself. Before all of this, there was no religions, you know? So it's time, I think, we go back to our truth. I always tell myself, I always preach to my ancestors, guys, I am the advocate for amadlozi. I'm the advocate yedlozi, and I'll always preach people and fight for people to connect namadlozi. Even though sometimes people swear at me and they say, I'm making people, devil worshippers and stuff, I don't care. If that is it, that is it. But I know I wouldn't be preaching about something I do not know of. Listen, I always say this, I was a Christian. For those of you coming here and writing scriptures, there's no scripture in the book I do not know. I was in a Pentecostal church. I was like, I lived something at Hambang up until this point. And where I am currently has made more sense than any of these places I've been. And because as a people, I always say, good, sinokuba lazy, sithanda izinto is practical, because there's nothing documented ngedlozi. That is why we are here to teach you, giving you the resources, or rather the information you need so that you are equipped. That is why amadlozi are opening all these journals and giving us this information so that we come back to teach. So as a person, as a black people, masivukeni, sibuyeleni esintwini sethu, sazi ukuthi idlozi akusidimoni. And ukufa is a transport to the spiritual world. That is the only way. You'll not jump out of your body. The only people abanenhlanta that are able to be in trances and all of that, kuba abantu abanamadlozi that are able to communicate, or rather get a small insight on the other side. And nakhona into is deep. You can't just come and say, I saw my granny sitting sipping shampoo on the other side. No, man. So it's one of those things. So I just hope that we will look at things differently. Isikhathi sokukhala, yes, it's important because umntwana makazovela uyakhala, umzali uyakhala because umhlaba uyahlaba. And even nongoba ahamba siyakhala, because we know not what awaits on the other side. So akutshelwana, every man for himself. One day it's gonna be your turn, one day it's gonna be mine. But mentally prepare yourself that I'm going to my people. Mbuyela ekhaya. Just about it. So I hope this video was informative. Thank you so much for viewing my video. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and like and leave your comment down below. And I am wabadimo Thokozani.